If I would own an airline, I hope I never do that. It's very tough. There are many ideas on how to increase the ancillary revenue, but there is almost none, like putting one more seat, right? So, but there is a limit there. It's a big challenge for the airlines, and it's a dream. Not many nail it. What we really wanted to build, going back to the initial idea, is to create that channel where the passenger interacts in the moment of truth, which is the flight. A digital cabin is the concept of integrating the connectivity, the buy on board, which is all the duty-free food, all the services into one. And I think people more and more want less things and live more meaningful experiences. Now the IPs, right, can interact directly with the funds. So if you can interact directly, how do you monetize them? Because we are a sector-focused fund, right? We cannot invest in a tech company we like, because we said let's focus on this thesis, no? Of sports, entertainment, live events, sport tech.
Let us enter this space, create these experiences, this community, this marketplace from a sports perspective. We're already in the airline space, and we want people to go from here with our technology on these flights to attend our events.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's it.
Martinez von Korff is an entrepreneur, advisor, a technology executive working at the intersection of aviation, digital media, and sports innovation. He is the co-founder and executive chairman at Immfly and advisor to the NIAN Sports Fund, focusing on transforming passenger experiences, advancing in-flight connectivity, and exploring how technology is reshaping fan engagement and the global sports industry. In this episode, we explore why airline connectivity is still a challenge, why large industries struggle to adopt new technology, how the concept of the digital cabin is evolving, and the growing intersection between aviation, sports, and entertainment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Not Just Money podcast by Handtech Markets. Guys, we have a very, very special guest today. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Jimmy von Korff. Jimmy, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. So, Jimmy, as we were just talking off camera, you work in quite a niche space. You started Immfly, right, in 2013, which is a company that focuses on airline connectivity and, in-flight entertainment and so on. And that you've been doing that for the last, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And also in conjunction with that, over the last couple of years, you've started or joined the NIAN Fund.
Yes.
And that is very invested on the sports tech and live entertainment side.
Yes.
So your experience is very interesting because you have experience on the tech and entertainment side in a niche place. And now you're trying to take that into a much bigger, more general or more well-known, industry.
Correct. Yeah.
So what I'd love to talk to you about today is, your experience in both, where are the synergies, and we were just talking off camera, there's a lot, starting with Immfly, an industry that we all fly, but we don't know that there are companies like you that are actually providing the connectivity for us to connect to the internet and so on. So before we get into all of that, Jimmy, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Yes, thanks so much. Like 12 years ago now, we started Immfly, with the idea of really helping the airlines monetize their passengers more through like a digital experience. No, when we say digital experience, we always think about you could monetize through passengers paying more, so you increase the spend per head, or through third parties that want to connect, like the brands, etc. Right? Okay. Or just improving the passenger experience, like with an entertainment connectivity system, or shopping is actually also increasing the spend per head. If you the planes where the spend per head is higher, the NPS is also higher.
Really, so that's interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah. So in 2013, we didn't have. I don't know if you remember, the airplane mode came.
Yes,
into the
of
market.
Course. Yeah.
Before, you couldn't have a digital device which is not certified in the aircraft. You had to switch it off. So when that regulation opened up the opportunity, we thought it's a great idea to start building applications for the airlines to capture the value of this captive passenger, which is
he's not going anywhere. He's
for so long he can't even move. So this digital ecosystem, let's say, not only for the passenger but also the crew applications and all that, was something new, that we could enter, and we were one of the first. And 12 years after, we have some products that are number one in their niche, as you say. So it's a nice experience.
For sure. So let's give the audience more context about this space, because I think it's maybe a pain point that a lot of us share. You know, everyone flies, like we were just saying, but till this day, with new aircrafts and new technology, connectivity is still this area that has not gotten to a level of what you would expect for how far we've come from a technology perspective. I don't know how AI is going to affect this now. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit. But for the people who don't know and who are frustrated sitting on the plane like, man, I can't connect, I can't do anything. What's the biggest issue in that space, and why is it still lagging behind where we are in technology today?
Yes, you're completely right. In the last, connectivity started some more or less 15, 20 years ago, first aircraft. And for all that period, the technology has been quite similar. And so you had antennas which were quite heavy in the top of the aircraft that connected to satellites, and these satellite constellations were very far. Like they still, most of the satellite constellations are still very far, which are they are called LEO constellations.
Leo, okay.
Sorry, the GEO constellations.
Okay.
The LEO are the new ones. So now the reason for that was that because the satellites are so far, the latency was very, very high. And you have that feeling that when you scroll, nothing happens. So
just that rolling screen, that loading.
Yeah, you have to think that those satellites, they are like 36,000 kilometers from the Earth, and normally it's 3 satellites that give coverage to most of the world, not the poles and everything. And some constellations have more focus than maybe the US or more some in Asia. But the difference is that now, like Starlink or OneWeb, and which are these new LEO constellations, which are very close to the Earth, let's say between 500 kilometers or and 1,200 kilometers. Yeah.
Wow, it's like 30 times closer.
30 times closer.
Wow.
The latency is like more than 10 times lower, and it's like at home, right? The problem is that Starlink launched their product 1 year ago, and we actually have launched our newest product like a few months ago. So until all the aircraft, start having this technology, it takes some time. But the future in the next 10 years, most of the aircraft will be equipped with Homa-like connectivity.
Well,
Yes.
I can't wait for wait to be able to watch YouTube and enjoy some stuff on the flights. But to your point, you said now Starlink has entered the space. I know with Immfly, it's a combination of hardware and an application, right? It's
Yes.
It's both.
Hardware and software.
So Starlink is, you get the box, and then that's how you connect to the internet, and you can place it wherever. So is the technology that you guys are now doing as well more smaller hardware, but that is more, let's say efficient to start doing those connections? Is that kind of the idea?
Correct. Yes. Good point. And continuing with the argument, one thing was how far the satellites are, and the second thing is the antennas. The antennas are much more efficient now, and there is a new concept, which is the electronic steered antenna, which is so much more efficient, and that permits also to give the lower latency. Before the antennas, they would move to catch the satellite.
Okay.
And they would move literally within the radome, And now that it's an electronic signal that detects the satellite, and it's not moving, so it's a flat antenna, and that's so much more efficient, and that's it's easier to install also the antennas, and permits to make it easier to the airline to also incorporate this new technology.
Sure. And when you're talking about satellite and constellations, so Starlink obviously has its own constellation, and there's different satellites. So when you guys started, did you have to go into that space of building and sending satellites so people could use your services and connect, or was it we're going to create the infrastructure from a hardware perspective and the app to connect to these massive, big satellites that are already up there and existing.
Yeah, no, very good point. Thanks God we didn't build any satellite constellation, because it's a very hard business, and then we've seen Elon and Bezos enter the market, so all the rest of constellations have gone dramatically down. So thanks God, because at some point we considered but we decided not. We decided to enter where we're good, which is providing the service,
Gotcha.
integrating the service, and working really closely with the airlines and integrating all the systems to their systems, and their experience.
So when you're having those conversations with the airlines 10 years ago compared to the conversations you're having now, I would imagine, I would guess that now they're much more interested in this space and how to leverage as much as they can per passenger, maybe compared to before. So, but I still feel, from an outside perspective who knows nothing about the industry, by the way, I still feel there's a resistance, because as we were just talking, if you're running an airline, you're renting a lot of your fleet, that's a big cost. So the incentive to add these things on, it's like, yeah, great, you could make more money, but their priorities would rather, typically, in my opinion, be more focused on more seats in the plane.
No, that's correct. I mean, the CEOs have different KPIs. The airlines, the CEOs of the airlines have different KPIs. One is they call CASK, is the cost of available seat per kilometer. Okay, so for example, the low cost carriers, this is like number one priority. No, the second is the NPS, obviously, like in many consumer and services businesses, and the other one is obviously this ancillary world, right? You need to charge someone something for moving you from point A to B.
Mm-hmm.
But you have that passenger that goes through your app, is in your plane for some time. What else can I sell to them? So it's this ancillary number, or the spend per head, which you can play with thanks to all this new digital engagement and relationships with their passengers, which I think the airlines own more and more. Yeah? I don't know if you remember before, the travel agencies and
true, very good point. Yeah, very true.
And now they own that more, so and they're gaining more profits from that.
So so it sounds like the ancillary revenue space is what's really growing at the moment for these airlines.
Yes, exactly. Because costs, I mean, at some point you can't reduce.
There's only so much fuel with the planes this big. We only got so many seats, right?
Yes.
So yeah, you got to play in a different way.
Yeah, and with time, what we're seeing is that the airlines are also changing their positioning. No, some were very, very low cost, and they have started giving more service because they have pressure from the consumer. No? And for example, in the US, the low cost model is not as successful than in Europe. No? So there are also differences between the markets.
Yeah. Low cost airlines in the States, I've flown them, and I've flown in Europe as well. Sorry guys, the ones in the States are very bad. I'm sorry, they're very bad. And I've always wondered different business models of like airlines. Now that you bring up low cost in this, because the low cost ones, you're like, yeah, I'll buy my ticket for, let's say, £100, €100. Yeah. But then if I want headphones, you'll charge me $5. If you want food, you're going to charge me a little bit more, right?
For everything.
Or I can go for the bigger airlines, that are more established brands that within my ticket price, all the additional like in-flight entertainment, the food, whatever is built into that. From your experience, since you've been in the space, I always wonder which makes more sense, or like from your perspective.
If I would own an airline, I hope I never do that. It's a very tough business. I know a lot of airline CEOs or executives, and I don't know why the airlines always get hit by everything that happens. Either it's the weather or COVID or a war. They always get affected by everything. So, I think if I would have an airline, I like them. If you give these options that you can pay on demand, but those are great, I think it's better. I give you an example. What would you prefer, like to have a free meal, right, or being able to pay? But they give you like really nice selection of food.
Yeah. I'd rather pay for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why something that we're working a lot is, for example, the pre-order, that you pre-order food and you can buy it, because if you pre-order and people know what you want and they can deliver it to the aircraft, they have some time to do that. They can bring higher quality, or even, for example, airlines like JetBlue in New York.
Sure.
You can partner with even restaurants from New York City to,
Really?
yeah, and bring it to you.
Interesting.
But if you don't know until the moment of the flight, you cannot bring that level of experience.
Yeah. I guess I never knew that you could do that. Like airlines could do that, or that would be an option. But the way I think of it, I'm like, why haven't they? Because I can look at it in two ways on the food perspective. Because I'm like, okay, there's 250 plus people, plus minus, on my plane, right? From a logistics perspective, is it better for me to just have a set menu and give you all one or two options and choice? Or is it better to give you maybe 5 options, but then you can pick it ahead of time, but I'm going to charge you more for that extra headache in a way, right?
I mean, the ideal scenario for an airline is everyone pre-orders.
Really?
Yeah. Everyone pre-orders, and so they know exactly what they need, because even when they always need the famous pasta, chicken or pasta. Yeah. So
very true.
So they still have a lot of waste and all that. So the more this could be built into the booking funnel, and imagine with the ticket, you have all this nice selection of food and you already pre-ordered it. That's the dream, because you can program it and you can coordinate all that better. Because if you think about it, it's a huge challenge to bring something to the aircraft. It has to pass from to airside. The kitchens are, in the airports. There could be last minute changes in the, they swap the aircraft because of everyday things happen, and all that supply chain management has to be coordinated at the minute, otherwise delays and all that. Yeah.
And when coming back to the logistics aspect, for sure, I think is a big one. And I think the logistic aspect, we were talking about it in food, but I think that applies to what you guys do as well, because there's also what we talked about earlier, how deploying all that across your whole fleet is not only time consuming, but what if, one plane, something happens and then you have to, change it. So you have to keep a consistent, I guess, uptick of, your services, your products, to ensure that there's consistency across.
Yes.
And I think consistency across is probably one of the biggest challenges, because also airlines travel all over the world to different places, right?
Yes. No, that's a good point. And it's a big challenge for the airlines, and it's a dream. Not many nail it, but just to start with, for example, they don't have all the same aircraft.
Very good point.
Boeing
True.
aircraft, you have
different
the
configurations, right?
Different configurations, and then you have the different systems. But I think they are making an effort to do that, because it's also easier to manage if you have consistency,
of course,
through the fleet. And in terms of installation, the connectivity solution, it could take between a year or two to install the whole fleet. And the buy on board retail technology, I think in 4 months you can have the whole fleet installed. So it also depends on the product.
Okay, yeah, that's actually I never thought of that. And when you talk about, so you guys started in the space with connectivity, that was the key thing.
Entertainment and connectivity.
Okay, exactly. So I wanted to come on to the entertainment part, because the connectivity I get now, it's about how you connect, the latency that we said, the quality, the efficiency. Where did the entertainment side fit into this? Like, from your perspective at the time, why did you also want to focus on, I guess, putting those two things together, like combining them?
I think part of the reason was that connectivity was not as good, at that time. So what we really wanted to build, going back to the initial idea, is to create that channel where the passenger interacts in the moment of truth, which is the flight. So what could you offer to the passenger? There's connecting, there's also watching stuff, and like this more the entertainment could be a hook, the newest release, which is in the cinema, that you can watch it on board through your own device, or in the short, medium flights, or through the screen. That's the hook, right? The moment where you can talk and communicate digitally to the passenger, or the more the e-commerce, the buy on board.
Sure.
So these are the three services that we combined, and that's why entertainment, we thought it's a hook. So let's also build the entertainment solution, and it was great for some time, and now connectivity is taking the space, right? Because as connectivity improves, you need less the cached content, right?
Yeah, of course, because then if my connectivity is good, then I don't just need what you will offer me on the plane to watch. I can watch whatever I want.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. I think there's still it's still positive what I said before, which is
it's still a good hook though.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you have movies that are still in the cinema and that are in the early release, I think it's nice, because it's something quite exclusive and unique that you only have that window on board, and you couldn't go to the platforms and watch it sometimes. Right?
Yeah. So on the entertainment side, because to me that seemed like I understood that there's the connectivity, the entertainment, and the e-commerce, but the e-commerce I kind of get because connectivity and that kind of go together. But the entertainment side is interesting because it feels like almost a completely different business model and different challenges. Because don't you need to get like rights for the entertainment? You have to develop these like long-term partnerships. So could you tell us about the entertainment aspect of how this comes into the the airline piece?
Yes, as you said, right? I think the one part is the software, that you need to create a player, no matter if it's we do from your own device. So I don't know if you have seen that, Khaled, when you connect to this connectivity platform, sometimes they also have this entertainment module where you can watch from your phone. Right?
Yeah, true.
And sometimes you have it on the screen. So we do both, depends on the airline. So that's the software component, doing the user experience of that. And then you need to secure the rights and have a content offering that you package, right? You have TV shows, you have documentaries.
Yeah, of course.
And you need to, we act, so I think in the 5th year of the company, we spun off a division, which is called Quiver Tree Media, which is actually going very well as well. And they act as a content service provider for Immfly and for others as well.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, and those are the ones that have all the partnerships with the content providers. No? And the interesting thing about Quiver Tree Media is that they also monetize the owned media, which is they act as a media sales company. So when you see a movie and you see for a pre-roll, that's also we can also secure, which is you give the content, but you give also the advertiser to monetize again for the airlines is key.
Very true. I never, until you said that, because obviously when I watch movies on planes, there's always the first like 2 to 3 minutes, it's ads depending on where I'm flying to visit X, come stay at this hotel, go do that. I never knew, I never paid attention to that.
Or even in the shorter flights, I don't know if you've seen airlines that have this headrest with an advertising paper. It's more offline, but it's also something that Quiver Tree does, and it moves millions and millions because the volumes of passengers.
This is so interesting to me. That's because it's all new. I've never heard about all these different verticals.
For example, if you can target the advertising for everyone that is going to London, so the advertisers that have the tourist tickets or even the bigger brands. The eSIMs, for example, are great sponsors and all that.
Sure. And when it comes to, so I think one thing to take into account is when I think about when I fly, I'm like, who do I want to fly with and why? I always think about besides the connectivity and entertainment, which is a massive, important piece because, I'm stuck in a chair. So I want something that, I can do the most with, is the comfort of the actual plane. Like the seats, are they comfortable or whatever? Because I think no matter how nice this is, if that's not there as a starting point, then this becomes not needless, but there'll be a cap on how far it can go, in my opinion. What would you say to that?
You're completely right, and you said it before, right? If you said something like the priority should be having one more seat. I mean, there are many ideas on how to increase the ancillary revenue, but there is almost none like putting one more seat, right? So, but there is a limit there. So they are playing. What we've seen is that airlines they've gone very aggressive, and some airlines sometimes have gone back a little bit, and then offer more space. So they've been trying. What's the
Sure.
what's the sweet spot? What's the sweet spot? No, but I mean, there's nothing worse, no, than being in. Yeah. Also depends on how tall you are and everything, but yeah, it's it's an important element to have for the airlines to fine tune to get the right model. Right?
Of course, yeah, and I guess like you said, depending on how the industry evolves and what trends are coming, you're gonna decide what limit do I want to start pushing. Is it the extra chair, or do I want more connectivity, more ancillary revenue, and so on? And you talk about the digital cabin, and I've never heard that before. So could you tell us a little bit more about what is a digital cabin and what in that, I guess, ecosystem, at the moment at least, seems to be the highest priority?
Yes, I would say that as we said before, costs are now difficult to lower even more. So I think the focus in the digital cabin is to use the onboard experience as a place to have this relationship with the passenger. So NPS and growing the spend per head would be the priorities. The digital cabin is the concept of integrating the connectivity, the buy on board, which is all the duty-free food, all the services into one, so cabin crew knows, okay, this is my frequent flyer that flies with me, and he normally likes to have Coca-Cola and a steak, and this other passenger in the seat 22C is the first time he logs in, and he's still not a frequent flyer, but he can become a frequent flyer in the cabin because it's the first time they fly with us. And so all that ecosystem, and then reporting back during the flight or just after the flight directly to the airline CRMs, the kitchens, the maintenance of the aircraft, to keep improving the performance. That's the digital cabin, when all the operation comes into one central knowledge.
Yeah, and now I wanted to kind of bring the conversation into into NIAN and the similarities and that space. And I was just thinking, when I was doing my research, I'm like, you know what? When you look at airlines and they want to do partnerships, I'm a football fan, so I watch football. They usually will sponsor a football team, whatever. So that's the only link I see between maybe for the World Cup, they'll be like, hey, you get this deal and this offer and these discounts. But NIAN is a sports focused, it's a sports focused fund, right? So I'd love to hear, where did the idea to enter this space come from, and was that partnership link that you guys probably already have with the airlines? Now the sports is the third partner in that, I guess, ecosystem, right?
I guess it's a bit unrelated from a sector's perspective, but more from my career and ambitions perspective, because I think Immfly was more a first company and project we built, and which was super exciting. We learned so much. I think there's still so much opportunity, but I have always had a lot of passion for the sports world, the artists, the creative world, and I think if you think about also how the world is changing, right, with AI, with probably in the future more free time for people, and I think people more and more want less things and live more meaningful experiences. And if you think meaningful experiences could be going to a concert, doing a marathon, going to a sports event, but also travel. You know, that's
Yes, of
I
course.
think that would be the link. Travel and sports entertainment. If I ask you what was one of the most happy moments of last year, most of the people said when I did this trip to there, or when I was in that experience with people and community. You know, so I think that's where the fund is going. You know.
Interesting. Okay, I see how you. It's a very smart move because, to your point, that in this space, the sports space in general, with tech, with live entertainment, is actually growing massively. Even even post COVID, I think it's growing even more now. I was watching the analytics or the numbers for the Super Bowl that just happened, and they were showing how much revenue has been increasing year on year for live sporting events. I don't know if that was just in the US, but I think that's happening.
It's
globally too.
Globally.
Yeah.
You look at Asia, you look at Europe, everywhere. The football clubs and then the basket clubs or the tennis IPs and tournaments, they are all growing in value, growing in engagement, and it's incredible. I mean, also the new concepts, you know, that are coming. You have the traditional, football, tennis, basketball, etc. But then you have these new concepts that are coming in, you know, with creators, with fighting leagues that are
Paddle, massive,
with new rules. With I don't know if you have heard about the Kings League, which is
yes, of course,
from JRPK, but it's a new way of using football, but with different rules and with athletes, celebrities, and growing massively, interacting with fans like never before, being monetized in very smart ways. So that's a whole trend for the last years, no? Especially after COVID.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like you said, all these new concepts are coming out, and they're almost like remixes on the traditional, global sports, right?
Yes.
And I think the remix is happening because it is more focused and targeted to the younger generation that's coming up, because they're the audience, you know, they're your future audience for the next 20, 30 years. So you need to build it around them, more engaging, faster rules, shorter games, you know. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And also the reason you guys entered the space now makes a lot of sense to me, because you're like, okay, let us enter this space, create these experiences, this community, this marketplace from a sports perspective. We're already in the airline space, and we want people to go from here with our technology on these flights to attend our events.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, most of the time you travel to go to an event.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, many times, 100%. So, no, I agree. I mean, it's very exciting what's happening, and for us the most important is look at these IPs and see, has this. It's like in the aircraft. The aircraft had the potential to have this unique channel, right? And this people going through this airline channels that we can monetize. You know, in the fund, what we're looking at is IPs that have the leverage to build those communities, because now you're the way you monetize is through these relationships with your community.
Spot on, 100%. And when you talk about IPs, Jimmy, sorry to interrupt you. That's the reason I also believe that podcasting has exploded, is because
it's an example of that.
You know, because now me as Khaled, you as Jimmy, we can start our own, and now we are basically building our own IPs.
Yes.
You know, and that is gonna be the game now.
Yes.
It's gonna be all about IPs. You see any person, big influencer, actor, whatever, who have their own, you know, like IP, then you can fit whatever product, service, whatever you want under that umbrella or personal brand, if you want to call it, or company brand. Right. And then everyone's going to buy into it because they already bought into the original thing that you built.
Yes, I think there is a complete ownership between the artist, the platform, and the fan. And there is no, you know, the value that the sponsors and the I don't know, in the past, no, these competitions or the football clubs or the broadcasting companies, the power is lower, no? And that's a great opportunity. Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to talk about how you guys actually set up the fund, because you've approached it in in a unique way. It's not just, pure investment. There's like flexible capital, and then there's different ticket sizes and so on. So could you tell us more about the financial model, I guess, of how you guys have set up the fund, and what pain point were you trying to address by setting it up in this way?
Yes, because we are a sector-focused fund, right? We cannot invest in a tech company we like, because we said let's focus on this thesis, no, of sports, entertainment, live events, sport tech, and it's good that you approach the investment from a flexibility point of view, and that you can invest in many different ways. For example, we could take a majority of a business and a minority. We could invest with equity, which is our preference, but we could also prepare a credit facility or private debt for that company. If it's a good project, we want to support it somehow with the fund, and that's why we believe that becoming very experts in the sector and being able to help those companies better than any other fund, because we are sector oriented and our network, our resources have that capability, is the key. How do we invest? Depends on the project,
Okay. And what kind of projects are you guys looking at? Maybe there's some, I don't know if you can share with us, of some that you guys are in, and why did you decide to join them? Because it might be interesting for people to know, because you guys are looking at what has the highest leverage and what's going to have probably the highest growth potential over the next 5 to 10 years. So it'd be cool for people to know like what's out there, because we probably don't.
Yeah, I give you a few examples of company we have invested in. You tell me your opinion, but so we can invest in quite early stage. We like that those companies are close to profitability or already.
So pre-seed?
I would say seed or Series A.
Okay,
Yes.
Gotcha.
They have to show already that there is some brand that they have built. But if it's really, really interesting and it's pre-seed, we can look at it as well. That's why we are sector oriented, and if the project is very sexy, we will go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And even more mature. If there's a project that's a bit more mature, and in terms of valuation, it's higher than our sweet spot, we could still enter. The idea is that the fund has a mix of companies that have a really high growth potential, but also a lot of risk, but also a few that could be a bit more mature. So I give you a few examples of investments we did last year. One is the MMA fighting league that is called WoW in Spain. That's also Ilia Topuria.
Oh yeah, yes. Of course, yeah,
of course. Is an investor, and a few months ago, Cristiano Ronaldo also entered.
Yeah. Okay.
It's amazing how this company is evolving, and the engagement, and how they are changing a little bit the image of fighting. It used to be something that some people would think, oh, this is obviously very aggressive, etc. But more and more you see more families and going there, and
absolutely,
and a respect between the fighters than before you wouldn't see as well. So and it's part of the culture of the founders of WoW, and we're looking at expanding the brand, and so that's an example.
So cool.
Yeah. And we also invested in a music festival, which is called Onda Linda. It's like a high-end festival by invitation only, that has first festival in Careyes in the Pacific coast of Mexico. It's amazing, which is now growing to new locations.
Amazing.
Yes. You can see there how also the segmentations of the products. This is a festival where the ticket of the festival is quite high. The number of people is not that big, but the production is like if it would be for 10,000 people.
Of course,
And this type of things also is an example of how before there were many types of products, and now it's more segmented also. And the third investment we did last year is we invested in the first tennis academy of Qing Wenzhen, which is the number one tennis player in China, and top 10, the first top 10 Chinese
Wow.
tennis player in the professional tennis circuit. And we're building the first tennis academy, which will be in Barcelona. But we're expanding also more academies in China, because she trains in Barcelona. So
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense.
yeah, so it's a phenomenal partnership and a great idea. You probably know other tennis academies like the Rafa Nadal Academy.
Of course,
that was
yeah.
a success. So replicating that, but also with different approach, different personality and athlete, and also a different market, no, with the Chinese component. Yeah.
So first of all, so cool. I'm a big sports fan. I watch UFC. I love the fighting. I like tennis. I'm not that big into, but I used to play for many years. You know, what is one sport that I just took up recently that has exploded here is paddle, and I know Spain is known to have the best, players in the world, and it's really like here the community has exploded. You could find a paddle court behind. There's probably one under here that we don't know about.
Yes.
And what's interesting is, okay, so I understand the avenues you're looking into. So you have, the fighting, you have sports, you have music, you have, so I get that side. What kind of tech stuff are you guys looking at? Because I don't even know what, when you talk about sports tech, I only think about obviously the big brands, and it's when it comes to maybe designing the shoe and that. So what tech areas are you guys looking into?
Yes. We're, for example, very interested in everything related to hardware. Hardware for the detection of biomarkers, and like the whole Whoop aura. I mean, there's a new wave of technology coming that also detects the biomarkers on sweat, or this type of technologies. And we're very interested. We're looking at different things there. We're looking also into we're looking at VR for the whole experience, to give an additional component. I know VR has had its ups and downs, but also with the incorporation of AI and the content, the quality of the content that AI can bring to VR, and it's an interesting space to look at. I think right now hardware is a bit more interesting than software for us. When we talk about tech.
Sure.
Yes.
So very cool. Obviously, wearing Whoop right now. This space, when you brought it at it from that angle, I just had ideas. I'm like, if you invest in something that can do tracking and whatever, tracking is such a massive space in the sports, field, and you could license that out to clubs, football clubs, and different teams. So the 100%. Potential there is massive. It's quite big. But you mentioned VR. So I spoke to someone who was working with football clubs as well, and creating metaverse experiences. So you can go and I sat down with them, showed that you can walk around. I can sit in the stadium and watch the game like I'm watching it on TV. Yeah. So now, because even with all the stuff you mentioned, fan engagement is crucial.
Yes.
It all comes down to that. If you can't engage the fans, the sport's never going to grow, and the money's never going to come in to take it where it could be. So looking at you being in the space, what do you see as long-term trends now coming in the fan engagement sector? Sorry.
In a very simplified way, is as we said before, right now, the IPs, right, can interact directly with the fans. So if you can interact directly, how do you monetize them? So if the most trendy ways to monetize is building all that loyalty scheme.
Exactly.
And through that loyalty scheme, you build a business model which is potentially more membership, or potentially more add-on, and increase the number of services, adding third parties so they can bring new services and then monetize more. I mean, there is not much more. I mean, these are the ways,
And it's interesting also in the fan engagement space that there's been a kind of like, so interesting, kind of like you guys were doing with Immfly and what's going on in the aviation space, all these clubs and teams are looking at how can we add more ancillary revenue to us besides just ticket sales?
Yes.
So is that experiences, is that what's going on? So you have experience in like now playing in both and addressing the same problem, but in different sectors in different ways. So where are the links between the two, and how has your experience with Immfly helped what you guys are doing with NIAN now from that perspective?
Yeah. I think a good example is all these loyalty schemes and how to bring partners to your loyalty, how to monetize loyalty. I would say that's a clear one, and this obsession of I think that's not so linked to the travel industry, but most of these IPs in sports and entertainment are also thinking, how can I, apart from selling something through that event, but also have a recurring revenue? And this is this is something they can build through building this stronger community and services around the community. So I think that's what these IPs are, the trend that we're seeing. I don't know if it links to so much to my previous experience. I think what I'm bringing more from the previous experience to the fund is the experience of building this bigger partnerships or investing in companies, and which is more the expertise you need in the fund to help the airlines or even do investments. So, because at Immfly we did, we got investment from a lot of strategics, and we bought companies, and we did joint ventures, and all that knowledge you bring to the fund.
To the fund, to
help those. Because in the entertainment industry, and it's not as scalable sometimes as it is as a software or content is. If you think about events, right, it's not so scalable. So M&A is very important. Like the whole acquisition games and growing through acquisition is very important. So.
Yeah, might as well take someone who's already built it in the space, instead of trying to, reinvent the wheel, as they say, right?
Yes, exactly.
And when it comes to strategic partnerships, because, you've worked with airlines, it sounds like they are not, that's not easy to deal with. Correct. It takes a long time to implement. But the same thing, I'd say sports is just as harder. I feel those two industries, like sports, aviation, entertainment, I sometimes think that these kinds of industries are very, yes, there's collaboration across, but they're locked. Like it's really hard to penetrate them and build within them, because you need to build the right networks to make, that happen. So when it comes to strategic partnerships, if I came to him like, Jimmy, man, I'm thinking of, taking on this partner, and I think it's good, I think it's strategic. What advice would you have, and where have you seen in your experience that partnerships crumble?
Yes. This is a very important question, because I think being good, if you have someone that is really good in business development or your board members that can really connect you and understand what is a good partnership to grow your company. It could be building a new product, right? Or expanding to a new market, and you're partnering with someone to do that. Buying a company or doing like this big alliances that can transform your business, right? And no matter which industry, any of those could be a complete inflection point.
Absolutely.
We had in the Immfly story partnerships that were an inflection point for us, and all the investments we're doing with NIAN, you see the same. Those companies are and the opportunities we're seeing. Some of these partnerships can be an inflection point for this company where they start growing so much, and it's a very sophisticated job. I mean, to know how to do those partnerships is I think, from my point of view, underestimated. Like, because there are so many ways of doing it, like giving exclusivity to someone or not, entering like by yourself to a new market, or doing it with a partner and doing a JV, or buying a company. And then once you decide those things, execute first the partnership with all the small clauses and little things that will make this successful, you know, because sometimes people sign stuff that you would wonder how difficult it is for many companies to have people that can really deliver a very good partnership. They have the idea, oh, it would be great if we partner, because imagine we would do together Mexico and so on. And then and now what? You know? There's
Exactly.
a lot of detail that if you have a good team that know how to execute those partnerships, your business can blow.
No, and to your point, like you said, in both your experiences, there were partnerships that became inflection points and took you to the next level. But what you said there was really interesting, Jimmy, because it wasn't just, it's not just about the partnership, but it's about what model of the partnership that we want to do. Do we want this way, that way? But I think from my experience, and this is a personal question, I always think my struggle as Khalid, for example, would be to judge the value of the partnership and judge it in a way where are we both winning here, or is one person, or is one of us really getting the better end of the pie? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. What do you think is the good outcome normally? When do you think? What is the feeling? What should the feeling be when you sign it?
I think for me, it should. I like to look at partnerships as, instead of compete, let's collaborate. So what are you good at that? What are you good at that I can't do, and what am I good at that you can't do? And instead of,
that's the win-win, right?
Exactly. Instead of eating both these pies, why don't we both go after this big one where we can serve both of these to a much bigger audience, and both of our offerings become much more attractive.
Yes. But when you are in that, and you're then, that's the high level vision of the partnership, right? So when you're getting to the details and signing the agreement, what do you think is the right feeling after the signature? My experience is that at the end, both are happy, but not super happy, because we have given concessions.
Of course, it's a negotiation, right? Of course, and I think the first sign of a promising partnership is, like, to your point, once we sign the deal and we get up and we shake hands, do we both feel good enough? You know, if we feel good enough and we both share the same feeling, I think that's a good starting point, you know, because I think it's never going to be perfect.
Yes. You can see in the market different, people have different approaches to business, right?
Of course.
You see the companies that try to be very dominant and aggressive, and other profiles where they look for the fair deal that is more long term, and, you know, and doesn't mean one is better than the other, but people have different business approaches, which could be both successful.
So, Jimmy, I just want to round off our conversation today with another question or two. This has been such a fun conversation. I've learned so much, and area of field sports I'm much more familiar with compared to aviation.
Yes.
If I was going to tell you, Jimmy, okay, you've been in the space for a while, now you're in sports. If you look over the next 5 to 10 years, which industry do you think has bigger potential from an opportunity perspective?
Yeah. I mean, the current feeling that we have at the fund is everything related with longevity. I mean, it's booming, and when you see, as we are in sports, you know, everyone understands now that sports is makes you healthier lifestyle, and we, from the fund perspective, we're starting. We didn't start looking at it so much detail, because we were more looking at specific IPs, you know. But yes, we need to get in, because there's so much going on, and I think that space will be big, you know, how you connect longevity with creating those experiences that help you to live a better and healthier life.
100%. And you know, when you said like the health side, I'm like, yes, you know, we're people as humans, we're always going to care about our health. It's you know, it's always going to be a number one priority. But then I was also thinking, I'm like, yeah, but we're always also going to need to travel. So it's probably just as big.
As I said before, everything that happens always hits the airlines. You know, oil prices go up, the airlines suffer the COVID or the weather or whatever. If you look at it, it's funny because they always get affected. But every year more people travel. Like it's non-stop for the last always since the 50s, no? Since the jet engine. So good industries to be in.
Excellent industries to be in.
But it's crazy on the longevity part, that how is it possible that right now it got so quick, that it's growing so much, that's because you would say, why did we didn't care so much 20 years ago about it? Why not? And now so much,
Yeah. I think maybe sometimes we underestimate the impact COVID had on all of this.
Could be,
because I think it taught us no matter how much money in the world you have, if you don't have your health, it's it's pointless at the end of the day.
Correct.
Jimmy, for my last question, I think with all the work you've done with Immfly and now with the fund, one of the challenges of these industries is to your point, the longevity, the sustainability and longevity of it. And now sustainability is not just from a environmental perspective, but also from a business perspective. How do you keep the fund healthy? How do we keep, providing these new products to the business, but still, maintaining revenue? So if you wanted to give someone advice from a financial sustainability perspective, what you've learned, what would you say to that?
I think it's a great question because we have lived it in our own experiences. A few years ago with COVID, everyone was like, for example, in terms of valuations and raising funds, and everything was growth at all costs. And with my co-founder Pablo Lins at Immfly, we said it's not the approach we want to take. We want to do growth, but efficient growth, like always protecting the cash. And I think that's been a successful model because what you can see now is that the market is moving to a more realistic approach on, okay, either you grow at very good rates and you control your cash expenditure, or you're profitable and you grow at less strong percentages, right? And I think that's where the funds are now. So the advice I would give is just try to be conscious on how much you spend in the business, and try to grow but efficient growth.
Exactly. And to your point, I was having a conversation this week with people who are in the VC space and whatever, and they were all talking about how a VC wants to come in for an exit. They're not here just to be there for a long time. But obviously, there's different. To your point, there's the growth model. There's more sustainable, more efficient practices. And I think one of the biggest issues in business is sometimes people chase the money first before figuring out what this is or how we refined it and set this up to be sustainable once that money comes in.
Very good point.
Yeah.
And then the focus part. I mean, I think one of the startups is very, very difficult because it's truly a game with, at the beginning of the startup, if you have 5 objectives post round, you really have to hit 4 or 5. I mean, it's not like, it's,
test here, that. No, the money's in now. You have to deliver, right?
So you're really, all the pieces need to go right until when you're a bit more mature. That's why it's so risky. So try to identify those points really well and focus on those.
No, 100%, man. Jimmy, I think that's a perfect way and such a perfect way to round off our conversation today. I want to first start off by saying thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on the Not Just Money podcast today. I've loved this conversation. It's been so much fun. I've learned so much from you about industries that I didn't know existed, what the links are. And I think even on a higher level, people looking at, business and investment, there's so much they can take away from this episode. So I wanted to say thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a very interesting conversation. And for everyone that is listening and has a great project in the sports and entertainment, we would happy to look at it. Yeah.
There you go. And guys, you know who to talk to now. Jimmy, my man.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Guys, everyone listening, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Yeah.
Super. So nice.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Not Just Money podcast. If you haven't already, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on socials to continue watching industry leader talk about the mindset, tools, strategies, and share the money truths that no one teaches you. And remember, guys, when it comes to money, it's not about flex. It's about freedom.